startups and all our guests that are over here, welcome, and I thank you for joining us in the Startup Festival. And now we're going to be, for the next 20 minutes, we'll be discussing the diagnostic tools in today's healthcare environment. I won't be doing this myself and on my own, because with me and with us today we have Dr. Heyn and Lynnette. Please join us on stage. From Omniscope, which is a deep biotech startup which reads your immune system in HD to intercept diseases. Interesting indeed. Dr. Heyn is a scientific coordinator, co-founder of Omniscope. He leads a single-cell genomic group at the Spanish National Center for Genomic Analysis, which is one of Europe's largest genome centers. He has co-authored over 80 publications, and his research has received over 7.5 million funding from national and also international agencies. I'm sure they'd be interested to know how you managed to get that. Dr. Heyn is also a key opinion leader in the field of genomics and a member of the Human Cell Atlas project and a partner of the Lifetime Initiative. We also have Lynnette, which is a co-founder and people and sustainability officer of Omniscope, a deep biotech startup, which I told you before, and she brings to Omniscope her experience in the financial sector, which she served as a diverse client base at Aberdeen Asset Management, and these spanned from government, private and public financials, including sovereign wealth funds, we have global pensions, insurance, as well as independent intermediates. She's working at the moment to build a company for the future, one that champions diversity, equity and inclusion, and has a world of positive impact. We'll have to have a side chat on that because I come from the people and culture at small enterprise, but that will be over a glass of wine later.
Absolutely.
Deal? Dr. Heyn, let's start with you. I've heard a lot about your interesting company yesterday. Would you like to elaborate more on what perhaps you do?
What Omniscope is doing. So what we set out to do is kind of to modernize the healthcare system by developing diagnostic tools that we interpret to be universal. Universal in the sense that they are able to diagnose many diseases at the same time. So the way diagnostics at the moment is interpret that we have a patient coming in with a symptom, and there are many different tests performed based on the symptoms the patient is presenting. But symptoms themselves can be very, very kind of vague, let's say, to interpret, like fever, cough, or whatever. So what we use as Omniscope as a technology is a system to read the immune system, so the human immune system, which is able to detect and fight diseases, and it's very specific in this sense. So if our own system is attacked, with a pathogen coming in, we have immediately an immune reaction. We have the adaptive and the innate immune system, and especially the adaptive immune system is very specific. So it would recognize a pathogen, it would recognize it, it would fight it with the T and B cells in our system, and as this reaction is specific, we assumed if we could read the specific reaction, we would have a universal diagnostic tool that we can use just from a blood draw to predict what the immune system is fighting at this moment in time.
So you've been over a year, I guess, now, or more or less a year, in that since we started the company, right? So what happens? You woke up one morning and you had this fantastic idea. And then what did you do? You woke up and you started writing a business plan. You spoke to people amongst yourselves. How did you sell your idea? What was the beginning of such an interesting journey?
Well, it took a weekend. So.
There we go. I thought so.
No, we knew. I'm a scientist. So I have a scientific background. I work since the last 6 years in genomics technologies, sequencing technologies. And so what we started discussing beginning of the pandemic is to look for problems where we use our tools that we have in science, which we know which work very, very well in science. We take those and we apply that on bigger healthcare problems. So, and then we reverse engineered the problem. We said, okay, what is the biggest healthcare problem we need to tackle? And then we were looking for tools that were kind of best fit to approach them. And this was the first discussion we can have. Okay, if we look at the healthcare system, what is needed? We need a more universal diagnostic tool. Then what tech do we have in hand? And then we can kind of reverse engineer that to identify a tech, and then over the last months to scale that to a format that it's applicable in the healthcare context.
Were there any challenges that you, obviously I'm sure there were, that you went through, but you managed to turn them into strengths? If you had to think of to give a few tips to all those that are watching us now on Facebook as well.
Apart from time management?
Apart from time management and finances, I would say.
No, finances were solved.
That's where she's going to come in, yeah.
No, I think we had the advantage that I had already a running research group. So I have a research group in the Spanish National Center for Genomic Analysis, which is a big genome center in Spain. Basically, it's an infrastructure for genome research in Spain. And there, from the first day, we had access to the more expensive equipment, but also to lab personnel. So any idea we had, we kind of, through research collaboration, we could start testing. And then we hired our first staff lab personnel for Omniscope, which we now work as a research collaboration in the CENAC lab while building our own lab. So this really gave us a kickstart to start testing, innovating from the first day. Yeah.
Lynnette, money doesn't grow on trees, as we know. I wish, but but it doesn't. What's the first thing that one should look out for and keep an eye on? Is it something which one can follow as a procedure, or is there an element of networking and I'm here to listen to you, so let me know.
Yeah, I wish there was a manual. Unfortunately not. I think it really depends on what your business is, understanding your product, understanding your market, understanding your product and market fit. There really isn't a one-size-fits-all. It depends on the people you have, because at the end of the day, companies are all about the people. So you have to understand the people, the expertise that they have, the strengths, the weaknesses, and then looking at your product and market fit, whether or not that makes sense, whether or not you should look at the short, mid, long-term type of development and how you get there. I think for us, we were very lucky that we had Malta Enterprises support right at the start when we started fundraising in April, June this year. Malta Enterprise very, very kindly decided to support us financially, 1 million, and that really turned the heads of the investors we were talking to at that point. So we're very lucky that in end of October we managed to close our friends and family round at slightly over €1 million too.
I'm glad Malta Enterprise was there to help you out also through your journey. How do you prepare yourself for a pitch? I know this is a $1 million question, obviously. It's not the $1 million funding, but it's a $1 million question. How does one prepare for that, Are there any tips that we could give to all our viewers out there?
How do you prepare for a pitch? I have to
when you approached your investors, that you were saying, how does one mentally at least prepare for that, Because certain people might feel a bit intimidated, that they're selling their product. They could have a great idea, but unfortunately, in those few minutes, and then you can literally screw it all.
Yeah.
Any tips for our startups?
I think you always feel intimidated, always. It's never going to go away. The key is to practice, practice, practice. Know your things by heart, know your business by heart, be prepared for questions. There's always going to be curveballs. If you don't know the answer, just say you don't know the answer. It's better to be honest than to give an answer that's not going to go down well.
I'm used to give...
I know we only have 20 minutes.
I'm used to give scientific presentations. It was very different from a pitch. So for me, it was a steep learning curve, because I had to bring something which is very complex in a format that is understandable to everyone. So good slides helped a lot. So I could walk around the slides and say, okay, this is explaining the immune system is, I'm not even the one that is most expert in that. So it's very hard to put in a format that you use the immune system to use AI, machine learning, sequencing technologies to interpret that as a code and to make this understandable. I think that was the most challenging for me and still is. But it's a learning process. It's pitching all Saturdays. I think we've been very busy, but we got better and better, I have to say. Yeah.
This might be a bit of an obvious question, but how ready are you to go in front of that pitch? When are you really mentally prepared and you've rehearsed and everything? You still have, the intimidation will always be there. I guess an element of doubt will still be there. you know. I'd like to make the session also as human as possible in the sense that people can relate to it, and listen, it's normal to feel intimidated, and it's normal to feel
Absolutely.
pressured, anxious, you know. These are all parts of the fun of that startup, I guess. Also, that there's also a risk of failure, and if someone fails, I guess, in the beginning, then also they can still retry. But how would one be really, say, wake up in the morning and say, okay, today I can start looking for my investors? Is there, I know there's never a formula, but a few tips might help out over there. When did you decide, okay, now is the time that we're going to approach people? I know we didn't prepare this.
I think we had been already experienced in giving presentations, not pitches, but presentations. So it's not that we started from the scratch. And I think we started basically immediately after the first slide deck was ready. Probably not with the most important investors, but like one by one, slow by slow. We had test pitches to friends that helped to get good feedback. But then it was really, let's get started, let's jump in. And that worked out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We had a lot of test pitches with friends. And you know, with friends, they're brutal. So they give it to you first. And you know, it can't get worse. So
no alcohol involved.
Absolutely.
With less friends now. No, also, the pandemic helped because you're not on the stage. You're in front of your computer at home, sitting in your living room.
Yeah.
So that obviously helps a lot just to kind of relax a bit. And
the neighbors might think one is crazy, but in reality, they're actually there. What are your plans now? So you've had your first successful year. You've secured a substantial amount of funding, both yourselves and also through Molt Enterprise. How do you see yourselves within the next 12 months? Are you planning to scale up?
Well, I can start on the scientific side. So at the moment, we're building labs on Malta, in Barcelona, offices here in Barcelona, to kind of get our teams up and working. On the scientific side, we have technology in place that we can apply already, but we're already working on the next versions to make it better and better scalable. And first of all, we are working on proof of concepts to apply our technology in specific strategic areas to get it out there. We have an early access program where people approach us with projects, and we evaluate them in terms if they fit into our strategic plan, where we want to go, where we want to apply our tech first. And this is where we are, and I think in the next month, we will have our proof of concepts in place that we can then better present to investors. Okay, this is not only the technology, but this is the outcome. So this is a result we can generate.
Yeah, Holger mentioned investors. We are obviously going to be raising more funds as the company prepares to grow and scale. We've done our friends and family, so now we're doing our angels for the next 4 million. And then Q1 next year, we're hopefully going for a 50 million Series A, so approaching the bigger professional investors, so VCs, family offices.
Lynnette, if I may, you have given a few tips, and so have you, Dr. Heyn, regarding the financial aspect of it, of how to prepare yourselves, of who to look for, what to watch out for. Perhaps many viewers that are currently watching us now, or they'll be watching us in the weeks to come, they might not be related to the health industry, you know, to the pharma industry, to the any related industry, okay? However, I assume that you could apply these skills and then to other sectors as well, you know, to other startups that would like to open up in other sectors. Am I correct, or am I saying a complete...
I would say yes. I never thought I'll be in biotech, so definitely. Put yourself out there, make friends. Don't just network, make friends, get to know people, you know. I think that's where the connections come, and that's where it becomes easier.
Interesting.
I think also what we learned is that the network, because we didn't start from the beginning, so we had our networks in place on the commercial side, on the science side, and that really gave us a kickstart. So I think if you would switch the area to something where you're not well connected, it's going to be more challenging. It's probably less rapid as we're moving now, but I think the concept, how, like the framework we build that company, I think that is kind of transferable, yes.
Yeah.
But I think network is something very important to have, or at least to build while building a company.
We met a bit yesterday and we spoke a bit about collaborations. in Malta, there is always a constant debate of how to collaborate between industry and academia, and perhaps one side needs to understand the other, and the other side needs to understand the other as well. How is it from your end? How do you collaborate between academia and industry, and any tips for a successful collaboration?
I mean, I'm coming from the academia side, so I've been collaborating all my life.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a switch to collaborate.
It's a bit easier.
To collaborate with farmer or to be on the other side. But now I have to say, for me, it would be a hard time to go back to do academia only, because we used to generate knowledge and to keep that knowledge in our scientific community. And now we have, with Omniscope, the opportunity to take that and bring that to a patient or to the healthcare community. And I think this is something that many people, researchers in academia don't see or don't know. But I think once you're kind of trained, or once you have insight how this step is done and what's possible behind kind of the scientific bubble, this is a training activity that is very important, and then it's very hard to go back from a pure researcher to something that is more applied. And I think that is needed to better connect both sides. So the industry, academia, also related to big pharma. So we work, on the research side, we work with clinical trials with pharma companies. But now with Omniscope, we do kind of co-development. So it's a different dynamic in the process. It's something less purely translational, like in the academia research context, but really directly applied to develop a product together.
Lynnette, anything you would like to add to that?
I think that was very well answered.
Got the approval. We're running out of time, unfortunately. I could sit here and chat with you guys for over an hour, because what you do is very, very interesting. But I'd like you, perhaps, in your final few seconds, any message that you have towards our startups, locally based, but also anyone else that's watching us there, and if anyone is watching us out there, to come to Malta as well.
You start?
I think big, dream big, and always remember that companies are all about the people. You can give the best idea and the best product to the wrong people, and it becomes a nightmare. If you give the best product, or an okay product, to the best dream people you can work with, it truly becomes a dream come true.
Heyn?
I think, yeah, it's worth taking the risk, and then it's important to create, let's say, a happy place for the people working with you. Because only then you can move together towards a common goal and have fun. So
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
have
the most
fun.
important bit.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And we have a lot of fun. So.
If anyone has any questions, then they can network with you over here.
Sure.
Dr. Heyn, Lynnette, it has been a pleasure to meet you and to have you for the session. Thank you so much. And thank you for the good work that you're doing as well, because at the end of the day, you're giving back to society as well. Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
to our Facebook watchers, stay with us, stay tuned. We're going to end a bit here, but my colleague Nadia is going to be with us very soon with a very interesting session on innovators. And do come tomorrow as well, in the morning, between 10 and 3. Stay tuned. Thank you.